You're listening to How to 20-something, the best podcast that helps both men and women navigate their 20s and learn how to adult across all aspects of their lives. We're going to focus on career, relationships, finances, fitness, nutrition, and all of the common challenges and obstacles a typical 20-something will face in this post-college life. I'm your host, Jess Diamond, and I am the CEO and founder of Jess Diamond Coaching, where I help young professionals get their shit together, gain their confidence, and own their life. No one prepares you for this adulting world, so allow me to help you feel like you are no longer a chicken running around with its head cut off, and that you actually know what the hell is going on and what your next step to take is. Welcome to How to 20-something. Welcome back to another episode of How to 20-something, where today I'm going to be pulling back the curtain to the self-employed world as a 20-something. I'm going to share with you numbers, data points, emotions, expectations, and why what you see on social media is nowhere near the truth of what actually happens behind the scenes. I talk to a lot of 20-somethings, and I'd say it's about 50-50 when it comes to someone telling me that they want to leave the corporate world and work for themselves, at least eventually. And part of it is because they don't want to feel trapped in a cubicle all day. And the other part is because they see the glorified life of 20-somethings working for themselves on TikTok or Instagram. And let me tell you one thing. This was an expectation put into my head when I was making my transition, so I want to put it in yours because it's true. You should expect 3 to 5 years of hard work before you start to see the fruit of your labor. And if you have the ability to, then you should work your full-time job in conjunction with building whatever business it is you're trying to build until you have the funds to make the full transition over to working for yourself. If you think being self-employed in your 20s looks like working from coffee shops, traveling wherever you want, whenever you want, and building a dream life off your laptop, then this episode is about to ruin that fantasy in the best way. Because while that might be true for some people, it's not true for all. Remember, there are exceptions to rules. So let me break it all down for you. Timeline-wise, I became a certified personal trainer in 2020. I was 23 years old and fell in love. I get asked a lot, how did I get here? And the truth is, it was an accident. And I think the best way to find your passion. I didn't force it into existence. I didn't try to find my ticket out of the corporate world. I just followed my own interests, and I'm very lucky that what I liked doing and what gave me life, I could also make money doing. I originally just wanted to expand my knowledge in the gym and had the time to be able to do so since I was furloughed and it was the pandemic. I immediately started working for an outdoor boot camp pretty much right when I began my certification, so they trained me for like 4 months, and I loved it. I was outside, people were loving my workouts, and I got such a high from people leaving feeling better than when they arrived. So I was ready to say, fuck the interior design world, I'm going to be a personal trainer. And my mom said no, since she was paying my rent at this time, since, I had no job. So I went and found a new full-time job as an interior designer, now with the mission to get out. I didn't know when yet, and I didn't know how, but I did know this would be my last full-time job, meaning it was time to start saving as much money as I could so that when the time came, I would be ready. For background context, I graduated college with about $35,000 in my savings. This was a mix of bat mitzvah money, birthday money, babysitting money, and any other odd job I had growing up, plus any summer jobs I had in college. My first job out of school had me making about $36,000 after taxes, and my second job put me at about $40,000 after taxes. So, y'all, I was not making a lot here, which means I was constantly having to learn how to live below my means. I made sure to keep my expenses low and buy only necessities for the most part so that I could put as much of my tiny paycheck away to my savings. I didn't plan big trips. I ate out once a week on average as a little treat, and I didn't spend money on just anything. By the beginning of 2021, I knew I was going to become a health and life coach to help support the personal training side of things. And this was at a time when I was moving to a new apartment with a 14-month lease. So I made that my deciding point. When my lease was up, I was going to move out of Orlando and to Charlotte to pursue my own business. That decision did not come until April of that year, though. I think it's very helpful to give yourself some kind of end date to work towards so you can keep your dream of becoming self-employed within reach, like just somewhere on the horizon. For me, it was by March of 2022, since that was when my lease was up. I was going to quit this job and move, and I wanted to have $75,000 in my bank accounts to help support me for the first 2 years. All of this, like I said, came into plan by April of 2021, which is when I began my coaching certification. And I was actually deciding between moving to Augusta, Georgia, where my then boyfriend was, or to Charlotte, where my best friend at the time was. So I had the plan, I had the timeline, I had the goals. Now it was a matter of making it all happen and working out some of the details. That's what you need to do. Because dreams without timelines will stay dreams. And trust me, you're going to get antsy. You're going to want to speed up your timeline to make your dream become your reality faster. Don't give in. By November of 2021, I was ready to do that. I was ready to quit my job since in May of that year, my office had changed their work from home policy to all 5 days in office, no matter what. So I didn't even have a ton of flexibility to work on growing my own business aside from the time after work. So I was getting antsy, which is why I made the point at the beginning of this episode that if you're able to do both, stay at your full-time job while you grow your business. You need to do both. It's going to help your brain and your finances and the longevity of your business if you can do both. For me, on March 7th, 2022, my 25th birthday, to the day, I handed in the keys and laptop to my full-time job. I had my $75,000 in savings. I signed my new lease in Charlotte, and I was ready to launch myself into figuring out the world of entrepreneurship. I had 3 clients working with me at this point, and I was feeling pretty good, but also had no idea where to go from here. So the very first thing I knew I needed to do once I moved was find a business coach. You need a mentor to guide you to building a business after their model. So find someone whose business model you agree with. And yes, you should definitely be paying this person. A free mentor is great, but one you invest in working with is what will make the difference in how supported and guided you feel. I went in expecting to pay about $10,000 for my business coach for those first 6 months, and she ended up being $9,000, so a little under what I thought, and I am still working with her 4 years later. I do not pay her $9,000 every 6 months now, though. So let me tell you, the money you saved up will go quickly for a few reasons. 1, life is expensive, and 2, you don't have a business model built up yet. That's the reason why you should expect 3 to 5 years of grinding before things actually start to happen. Building a business takes time. Sure, there are the lucky people who hit it off right from the start, but for a vast majority of you listening, this is not the easy way out you think it is. It is stressful. You're going to have moments of extreme doubt. You're going to feel like nothing is working, which is why you need a coach in your corner who knows what they're doing to lead you in the right direction and to help you with your mind gremlins when they creep in and make you question all of your life's decisions. This is not the type of coaching I provide. I do not know how to personally help you build up your own business. I can only relay what was relayed to me through my coach. You also need to have a backup plan. For me, if my savings dipped below $35,000, I was going to look into finding another full-time job. That was my personal limit. I'm very glad it never got to that point, but it did get pretty close in that first year to year and a half. So have your limit where you're not losing everything and a fallback plan just in case it takes so much longer than you originally predicted or if a hiccup comes your way that derails you for a little. My first year out So from April to December of 2022, I was in survival mode. I made $20,831. And that is including Hanukkah and birthday checks. I started working at F45 and I had picked up a contracted job with interior design stuff that was giving me about like $800 a month. My coaching business itself did not make a ton, probably around $12,000 if I were to guesstimate. I felt like I couldn't really make plans with the new friends I was meeting. I think I went on 2 trips that year and they stressed me out financially. And every time I looked at my finances, I was concerned. Year 2, same thing. We'll call this year unstable. Now we're in 2023 and I made $12,000 in coaching, $13,500 in personal training plus 2 months of freelancing interior design, and $12,500 in F45 and other miscellaneous income like birthday, Hanukkah, babysitting, etc., what I don't have to worry about for taxes. So starting to do a little better with a total of $38,000, which is roughly my starting salary in my first job out of school. Only my expenses had all doubled by this point, so I was still barely scraping by. But again, the coaching business itself was still not really taking off from here. It did about the same as the year prior. I could not survive without my other 2 sources of income. This was also the year when I was dealing with a lot of personal stuff, which also hinders business growth, the part of life that derails you. Unexpected depression does not help with getting out and meeting new people and building relationships. Luckily, each year afterwards, I saw a little bit more of an improvement in my business and in my own mental health. In 2024, year 3, things started to improve, but nothing felt sustainable in my coaching business yet. I made $16,000 in coaching, $19,000 in personal training, and $18,300 in miscellaneous income, F45, birthday checks, babysitting, any odd payments, which jumped me up to making about $53,000 that year before taxes, the most I ever made in a year in my life. A little bit more livable, but still felt pretty strapped for cash, and also could not solely rely on my coaching business to support me. Year 4 was 2025. It looked about the same. However, I did leave F45 3 months into the year, so my coaching business and personal training needed to increase to offset the loss of income, and I rounded that year at $56,000 total. Again, not bad. This year, 2026, and even really towards the end of 2025, is when things have really started to feel fruitful. I was able to max out my Roth IRA for the first time, put money towards savings, and breathe. I could afford trips. I could be able to plan trips. I could take Ryan out to dinner, make plans with friends, like really start to enjoy my life and say yes to experiences. It took 4 years of grinding and not giving up and working with my business coach to finally get here. And yeah, there's definitely still doubts in my mind that it could all go away again. Entrepreneurship is unpredictable in that sense. You could make $8,000 in 1 month and then nothing the following 2. It's a constant roller coaster ride where you are fully in charge of every decision and every outcome. How to find clients, how to grow, how to scale, what's next, etc. Whereas in the workplace, your manager or supervisor gives you your deliverables and deadlines, and your paycheck is predictable every single month. When you're self-employed, if you cannot come up with your own deliverables and follow through on the deadlines you set for yourself, you are destined for failure. This is why it's not for everyone. You need to be a planner. You need to be disciplined. You need to be organized. You need systems that are reliable, and you need to be able to trust yourself. A big mindset motivator for me mentally and in reality is that as an interior designer, my income potential was capped at $80,000. As an entrepreneur, quoting Mean Girls, the limit does not exist. But it's how far are you willing to go? What boundaries do you need to set to support this life? Because there's also not a clock in or clock out. And as I learned in architecture school, you are always never done. There is always going to be something you can do, work on, improve, reach out to. The day never really feels done, so you have to have the wherewithal to stop. Call it a day. Clock out of your business and take much needed breaks. Otherwise, you'll burn yourself out. The bottom line is, entrepreneurship is not the freedom you think it is. Sure, I don't have to report to anyone. I can block off my calendar when I want to, but I can't plan for things. I don't know if I'll ever be able to buy a house on my own. Taking a week off makes me feel guilty because I have a duty and responsibility to my clients. Spontaneity isn't a thing. I put a lot of things on my plate and have to manage my own timelines and deadlines so I don't get overwhelmed or bite off more than I can chew. And it's a slow, grueling process that is going to test the fuck out of you. Becoming an entrepreneur is not built for everyone. You're trading a boss for self-management, structure for self-discipline, predictability for uncertainty, security for control. And some of that might sound enticing. But this is not a road you can walk alone, and it's not a road designed for everyone. It's also very emotional. You really have to learn and work through the ugliest parts of you. The thoughts that make you think you can't do this. The people who tell you you can't do this. The self-worth, the grit, the resiliency, the pride, the willingness and openness required to learn and keep learning, especially when you make a giant mistake. It's about being able to live with uncertainty for longer than most people can handle. I mean, think about it. If this were easy, everyone would be doing it. Corporations would not exist anymore because everyone would be able to be self-employed. And I know this is what you're primarily seeing on TikTok, so you think everyone is doing it, which is why you think it's easier than what people like me are telling you. But your algorithm is only showing you what those creators want to show you, which is why I decided to make an episode ripping back the curtain of the not so glamorous side and expectations of this kind of life. Your raises are on you. Your income and lifestyle is fully dependent on your ability to succeed. Your relationship with money needs to be dealt with. And if you're coming from a 6-figure salary, you need to adjust your lifestyle to match that of a teacher's in order to survive those first few years and end up on top. So, if after hearing all this, you still want to chase this life, then don't chase the aesthetic, that time flexibility that you see. Don't jump in without a plan, and keep your full-time job so that you can use this time to build the skills, systems, discipline, patience, and savings. And then decide if this is actually the life you want for yourself. I love this life. I am excited to wake up every Monday and see my clients. I truly love what I do, but that doesn't mean it didn't test me along the way. And I know there are still tests to come. It's the life I chose for myself. I saw something bigger within me, and I chased it, and I fought for it. And I know it's not for everyone. You get to decide if this is for you. Are you okay with the ugliest, toughest sides of entrepreneurship? The pretty side that you see online is easy to accept. But what's underneath the surface is what you really need to sit down with yourself and think about. And there is no right or wrong answer. There's just being realistic with yourself. Can you do this? Tackle the parts that no one tells you. But I just made a point to do so in this episode. So, on that note, if you liked what you heard, if you learned something new, if you have a friend who keeps dreaming of the self-employed life, then please share this episode, send it to someone, share it on social media. Just please help me help all of the 20-somethings out there navigating the most confusing decade of their life. And as always, I can't wait to be in your headphones again next week with another brand new episode.